It works. It friggin' works. All right, before I start today, I am going to wash the wagon. I'm not doing that again. Remember, kids, wash your car. Damn it. There you go. Sweet. Well, if you saw my overland video, you saw that I lost my U-joint. That's the first thing on today's list, is to go ahead and press these caps out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this up a little bit and take some of the burrs off, because there's a little bit of burrs, but I think this is very easy to save. So I went ahead and took the flange off where it actually mounts to the transfer case, and you can see this thing's been broken for a long time. This has been on its way out for a while. And I have had a phantom noise that's rotational. I think I found it, because these things are destroyed. That's bad. Alright, pressing that little piece there through, you can kind of see. I pushed from this side and trying to push this cap out, and it's now flush, so I'm going to dig it out a little bit. And what I did is a little trick that I saw on the YouTubes from Eric Car Guy. Small socket that fits in here, like so. Large socket that goes over it, like so. And just use your vise and a big cheater bar and just slowly crank it. And if you have resistance, stop, kind of check everything, but for the most part, you can get that out. So I'm going to continue on that path and try to get this thing pulled out. I think, like I said, I'm probably have to get like a flathead or something like that, probably that cap up. This is all kind of broken apart anyway. With a little bit of massaging with a 1/2-inch extension and the hammer, and then knocking that cup out. But you can see how just disgustingly broken that all is. I think it's chewed up. So yeah, this is, I don't know how I got that bad. I don't know how U-joints go bad. Admittingly, I didn't know a lot about U-joints before this happened, and I've been wanting to kind of get in the game and kind of understand U-joints a little bit more, because I knew eventually I'd have U-joint problems with the wagon, because that's just something that happened with all four-wheel drives eventually. I'm learning along with you all, because like most problems, when you get there, that's when you learn. So you can see this all came apart. I guess the cups just failed. It looks like it just got hot. I guess over time they just kind of wear out. There's just a lot of stress fractures and stuff like that in the middle. You really can't see it on camera. I'm not going to sit there and take time to show you, but there's stress fractures all along here where the metal's just worn out. The next step I'm going to do is I'm going to get the Dremel. I'm going to go through here and I'm going to clean up all these bores, smooth them out, polish them really well, get all the burrs off. There's witness marks here where they actually stamped the old caps in, so I'm going to kind of clean those off too. A few minutes of just grinding. Alright, U-joint is rebuilt, nice and free, ready to go back in. So when I had to do the side of the interstate repair, I had to kind of debag. I had to put all that stuff in a bag. So I'm going to go ahead and drop the part that attaches the viscous coupler and attach it back here. That way I'm not having to fight it under the car. Your time is coming, pal. Speaking of that, this is what I've been waiting for to fix the Fiesta. Details coming up very soon. But thank you, Whoosh. Thank you, Ron Miller. Soon. Well, a bit of a bummer. So when I was taking this off on the side of the interstate, I guess these two bearings fell off. I did see one drop and I made sure to grab it. I guess that was the only one I grabbed, because I can't find the other two. So I'm going to go see if I can look up these bearings and see if I can order two of them. And plus, while I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and buy some axle grease. That way I can put that back in there. When it's cell sealed back up, it'll go good and re-greased up. For now, I'm just going to leave it hanging. I went ahead and fixed the squeaking alternator belt. That thing has been coming loose, so it's really easy to fix though with just a 12 mil and just a breaker bar. Just knock it back, tighten it back up, check your tension. Besides that, I'm going to call it a night. I'm going to do some research real quick. I might come back out here and fiddle with it though. We'll see. You ever have one of those moments where you feel like a complete genius? It doesn't happen very often for me, but I try to keep up with my logic here. So let me introduce you to the problem first, and then I'll get you to the solution. Problem. I lost a U-joint on the interstate. You've got your back drive shaft, your front drive shaft, transfer case, your diff, happy wagon, smiley face. So going down the interstate, this broke here and dropped and hit the ground on the interstate, and that turned this into a frowny face. Aww. So what happened here is when that happened, I had to crawl underneath the wagon in the rain and pull the drive shaft out so I keep on going. But the way I had to pull the drive shaft apart was actually separate it at the slip joint, which in hindsight, I shouldn't have done because that's what really got me screwed up. So when I did that, I'll show you next. So on the interstate, when I was pulling the shaft out of this is the slip joint that was still part of the wagon. It had these 3 bearings that go on top of the tripod joint, which I've learned all these new terms. So when you pull it out of there, these just slide on and off. There's no clip, there's no nothing. So when I pulled it out, I was underneath the wagon in the pouring rain trying to get it out, trying to get off the road because I'm on the side of the interstate with my kid in the back and I'm in a wagon and it's raining and there's semi-trucks flying by, so I was kind of in a rush. So I pulled it out, I saw one drop, I was like, oh, I need to grab that. So I grabbed this one, put it in the bag, stuffed it all, closed the back hatch, and then I got off the interstate. But in that rush, I didn't realize when I came to unpack the drive shaft, I only had one of these left. I lost the other 2. So that put me in a pretty big pickle. You cannot find these anywhere, just these by themselves. Civic Wagon drive shaft components are super rare nowadays and they're getting harder and harder to find, especially since everybody's doing drag race stuff with these things. So finding this was impossible. I tried to go to my MasterCar, I went to all the bearing sites, and to find this particular bearing, is extremely hard. It's got all kinds of crazy grooves and it's got a flat side here that has a indented side here. So finding that bearing was going to be incredibly hard, and I could not find it anywhere. There's no part number here. Honda doesn't have any part number. Even the parts diagram doesn't actually show those. It's just part of the shaft. Absolute last plan was to go back to the interstate and try to find these things on the side of the road, which I may still end up doing, but I think I have a solution. I got to digging, got to pulling stuff around. I pulled this off, and I got to looking at it. I was like, man, this looks really familiar. And part of this, there's the carrier bearing that goes in between here and here. The carrier bearing goes in here, and I got to look and there's a nut in there, and that nut is a good old-fashioned 32 mil nut that I put somewhere. Good old 32 mil nut, and if you're into the Hondas, you know what that came off of. That's the axle. Maybe you're following me now. Now you see where I'm going with this thing. Old Dash here just happens to have a spare axle over here that came off the wagon when I dropped the ball joint at the park. So, if you're still following along at home, put 2 and 2 together. This looks very familiar. This is from the drive shaft. And this is an axle stub. This actually came off that axle, and it fits on there perfectly, and I actually have the tripod put together in there. There's no play at all in that. The only thing I'm going to have to do differently, I have all 3 tripod bearings in there that came off the axle. They fit over the shaft just fine. I didn't have to change out the tripod or anything. The only thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to take all this stuff off here and this rubber here, and what I'll do is I'll just put an CV axle boot from here to here, just like a CV axle, because this is essentially what this is going to do. Now the only real difference I have, you see this shaft, it goes all the way up, and this one actually has provision for a nut to go on the end of it. That's because this is the inside shaft that actually goes into the transmission. It has a C-clip, retaining clip here and all that. Well, this is actually more, so this is kind of like a hybrid. This is like the inner cup of the CV shaft along with the outer spline of a CV shaft. So that almost presents a problem, but not really. This inner CV shaft is a 30 spline, just like this all is as well, which really shouldn't work together. It does fantastically. I'm not going to put this on right now because that C-clip is kind of hard to get in and out, which is also good. So when I go to reassemble all this, I'll put this here, that over that, and we'll essentially have a new drive shaft just with a CV joint here and a boot instead of this bolt-on bit, which is already blown anyway, which is leaking grease. So I solved a problem I didn't even know I had. I think this is going to work, guys. I know my dad's going to say, oh, that's just your luck. You have the most incredible luck in the world. Yeah, well, either way, might work, and I think it is going to work. The only difference is, like I said, before I get back to it, I won't be able to put a nut on here because there's no provisions, there's no threads. But if you see, they're both the same height all the way to the end. This is never going to slip. That drive shaft is not going to ever slip that much. The motor's not going to move that much. The transmission's never going to move that much under any condition. And even if it does get to the C-clip, you have to get that C-clip off just right. And then you still have, you'd have to go that far of travel of the transmission and the motor, which is just not going to happen. I think it's going to work, guys. I'm going to, so now what I got to do, since I'm showing you guys this, I have to take this apart anyway. And the hardest part is lining up these. This is the tripod joint, and these are the bearings that go on it. And since they're from a CV, you can see they're squared off. And they fit, they have a slip fit, like they fit perfectly. But they have to go at just the right spacing to fit inside there, which is perfect anyway. So that means you've got a tighter fit than it would from this joint. So this is a great improvement, I think. So what I gotta do is I gotta take all these back off. Set these back here. And I've got to pull, there's a C-clip that holds this joint on, and then after I get that C-clip off, I'll be able to pull all this stuff back off. So let me get that right here. Tripod joint is off. If you can see there, when that broke, it actually destroyed all that seal there. So no matter what, all that grease is gonna come flying out of there. Now I think it actually warped all that too, you can see. Oh yeah, there's a lip right there. Yeah, there's a lip right there where that clamp goes over, and actually will seal that grease just like a CV. It's gonna work. Yeah. I feel like a mad scientist. Can't see the grooves because there's so much grease. Cut that. Ah, your face always itches when you have grease all over your hands. Every single time. But there's a ridge right there to keep the CV boot to it. So this is the axle that I stole it from, and this is just a standard CV axle for a D series Honda. You can see it's got the tripod in there, just like the drive shaft has. So there's your CV boot that I'm going to use for the drive shaft. Make sure it's getting set in there good. I usually, when I get a C-clip in there, I just spin it just to make sure it's all in the groove. And that one looks like it's all good in the groove. Oh, son of a bitch. I forgot to put the boot on. Ah. I was getting so greasy. And that works. Okay, so before I get ahead of myself, this needs to go back on, which is the carrier bearing. So I've rebuilt this basically as a CV instead of a axle, which it'll still slip like it's supposed to. We'll see if that's gonna work. I'm curious. The only thing I'm really worried about is like if it slips enough, like it. Once it gets all bolted out of there, it won't. I don't know. We'll see. I'm curious. All right, before I go and say this is all a wrap, so I gotta go get some axle grease to shove in there, and then I gotta get the CV clamps. I think we're good. So I'm no grease expert by any means, but I went ahead and I researched the moly grease is what you're supposed to use. After fighting my grease gun, getting grease in my beard, and completely destroying my table because it's the wreck. I've packed it. I don't know if you're supposed to pack it that much, but I went ahead and just made sure I shoved all that down in there to get the grease good and deep in there. I'm going to go ahead and wipe everything down on the outside with some cloth, some blue rags, kind of get some of the exterior grease off. And then I have two different types of CV clamps. I got this one from AutoZone, which it looks pretty good. It looks like you can actually clamp it down to whatever size you need. And I got this one from O'Reilly's. I'm not really super impressed by it. It doesn't look like there's a lot of adjustment to it. You see it's only got those 3 little notches there. There's probably a way to do it with special tools or whatever, but I think I'm going to use the AutoZone ones because I think those are going to be more adjustable. Well, that's all together. It's all been greased. I was having some problems getting this one on. I actually ended up using a hose clamp for the bottom, which is probably not the best idea, but I did get the top banded like an actual CV axle. There's a slight tear in there that I think it was on there before I actually put it on there, so I'm going to have to replace that boot eventually. But for testing purposes, I think this is going to be just fine. If it does throw some grease out, no big deal. So the only thing I'm going to do right now is I started thinking about last night about ways to retain this on here. Like you can see the internal C-clip actually holds it in there just fine. But what I was thinking is if I can find one of those dog ear, like out external C-clips that has the 2 prongs on the outside you have to pull apart. That way I could double secure that on. I'll pull that C-clip off if I find one. Let me go dig through my junk pile right quick. Alrighty, so it's all installed. The cup is in there. The boot's not stretched out, so it's the cups, all the bearings are nice inside the cup. Grease is on. The front's bolted back to the transfer case. I think it should be good. A few things I want to do is I want to make sure I go ahead and put the grease in that U-joint before I finish this up. And I also want to kind of mess with the angle of this viscous coupler because it is a little bit still high in the back. Probably need to put another spacer to the back, so I'll update you guys on what I end up doing with that. But I'm going to take it for a test drive right quick and just do kind of a proof of concept to see if it'll actually drive and see if there's any crazy vibrations or anything weird. It works! It freaking works! I'm so excited that works! So the first test is awesome. Everything works. I just did a slow crawl and it just pulled itself right on up just like it always would. No front spin at all, no nothing. So, gotta go finish up a couple things and I'm gonna call it good. Genius. The wagon feels so good right now. Feels like a whole new car. Cop was rolling by, he's eyeballing me. I always want to make sure they don't see me filming and holding my camera. It always looks kind of bad. I'm not on my phone, so there you go. Look at the road. It's a little loud. It's going to take a little time to kind of test it, make sure there's nothing going wonky about it, make sure that everything's going to work the way it is, because this is not the way Honda intended, this is not the way anyone intended, so it should work though. I mean, in my mind, I don't see any reason why it couldn't work. So if you guys see anything that I missed, see anything that you be like, hey, maybe look at that, let me know in the comments below. But besides that, I'm going to end this one on a tremendous bombshell that I am a genius for this one. Just give me one. Just give me one video where I'm a genius. So this will be it. My genius video. So anyway, back to my regular stupid stuff. Speaking of stupid stuff, I called myself a genius for this video, but on the way back I realized that I did something that I could have really screwed something up. So me and Ryan got this strut bar from Pick and Pull yesterday, and I was kind of test fitting it, kind of seeing how far off it was from the wagon stuff. Well, last night when I got redone, I was like, I'll just set it under the hood and close the hood on top of it, and it's not like I'm going to go anywhere anyway. Well, it's a little warm because it just got back from my test run. It was riding underneath the hood right here, the entire test run, just like that, wiggling around. So, yeah, genius is over. Back to just regular dash, forgetting things and setting myself up for failure. But anyway, I'll catch you guys later.